Hello everybody, welcome back to the first video on my channel, not about cryptocurrency. This week I got my 3D printer and tried to get a good time-lapse video for the test print, and even with the little reverse filter, it didn't really come out good. So I'm gonna try and, I guess, set up something a little bit different for that. But needless to say, I basically hopped down the rabbit hole trying to figure out what it was I was doing wrong and what I could do to make it better. I did enough reading to realize that this blue glow-in-the-dark stuff would have destroyed my printer and completely turned it into this giant big blob of death. So I just went with this mandarin orange color, or Bitcoin orange like I like to call it. So with the setup being a breeze and the test run now out of the way, I went ahead and swapped the filament onto this orange one. I also learned a lot about keeping your rolls dry because they will retain moisture, and I don't know if this is the proper way to do this or not, but that's what I'm doing. So there's that. So first up, you're going to give the packaging a good old stabby stab, and then if you're like me, you're going to spend entirely too long searching for something to cut your filament with, because 3D printers hate when you bend the filament in an angle and they have to push that bent, lumpy piece of filament through. So first up, you're going to load the new roll onto the spindle and push a good bit of the filament into the tubing, but not all the way to the end. It's going to heat up a little bit, make a poop, and then after it's done with that, you're going to, once the new filament is pushed into the hot end, it kind of melts a little bit more, poops again, and then boom, you're ready to go. But if not, you'll get a sound that sounds like this, and you'll have to do it again. And I ended up having to do mine like 2 or 3 times. So once the poop is coming out the same color as the roll you just put on, you know you did it right. And I know most of you probably don't want to hear me talk about poop a whole lot, but I feel like if I said, purge the excess filament, purge the excess filament, purge the excess filament 50 times in every video, that would be just as not entertaining or enjoyable. So apologies in advance. So anyway, I set up my GoPro and shot a time-lapse video for the orange boat, and it went horribly. And even at its best, it sounded like this. So yeah, notably, step 1 of making a satisfying time-lapse video is strip the sound off that bitch. So then I got into the battle of where to put my camera, like my GoPro, and then having issues with overheating was a problem. Sometimes my GoPro would die in the middle of making a video, and that wasn't a good thing. And then, although the boats are very small prints and they take about 20 minutes to complete, so I was able to get a full video instead of a traditional time lapse. But as you could see, the printer shook so violently that it knocked the print out of frame. So as you can see here, I repositioned the printer to the center of the table to try and absorb some of the vibration. That seemed to work a little bit better. From there, I kind of had to decide if I want to go down the traditional time-lapse video side of things, or if I wanted to get long videos and then condense them down. And I kind of did a trial run with this orange articulated caterpillar thing just to see how it would look condensing a long video down. And this first kind of portion of its time-lapse, the GoPro overheated. So I had to give it a break, start it back up, and that kind of worked out for me because I was able to get like 4 different clips. It overheated, it died, I charged it for a minute, came back, got the third little chunk of the video, and it almost died again, but I kind of ended it, I had like 30 minutes left on the print, so I kind of just let it charge for 20, cheesed it a little bit, and then kind of recorded the last 10 for the part 4, and I was able to, you know, run all 4 parts of the caterpillar time lapse at different speeds. And until I can keep my GoPro from overheating and or dying while doing prints, I'm not going to be able to do full-length videos. But I do plan to do full lengths for people, you know, to like fall asleep to at some point in the near future. But for now, I basically just started going through the speeds 1, 2, 3. So from here, it kind of becomes a battle of how many times do I have to speed the video up to get it down to something people would want to watch versus how fast can I get it without the printer head looking sloppy. 5x here, it's already like hopping around and kind of shaking and hopping and jumping back and forth, and this print doesn't go nearly as fast as the boat print does, and that's why I wanted to use it for the long video rather than the time lapse, because it was, you know, kind of prone to the least amount of shaking. And I mean, you could see here at 5x it doesn't look bad, but I still felt like the videos were going to come out 20, 30, 45 minutes, and you don't want to watch that for a small print, you know. Then we go to 10x, and again, the printer head's just everywhere. It's all over the place. It's very distracting. But from here, I'm just going to keep going up, and you can just kind of see how they progressively get better and worse with each step up. Right here at 15x, we're starting to get into the things I would legibly watch a 15 times speed time lapse of a 2-hour print, you know? Probably a little bit long of a video, but there really isn't much to say on 20 times speed. But as long as my print is like an hour or less, I think this would be a feasible way to make a time lapse out of a full length video. At 30, it's looking pretty much perfect. Aside from the jittery printer head, it's moving pretty smooth. I did reposition the camera a little bit, but again, that's how it overheats. Somewhere between 40 and 50 is kind of what I ended up deciding on. I think right here is where the GoPro overheated and died. Somewhere in this part. Yep, there we go. And then I tried 100x, which really just looks like shit. 45 times speed is pretty much going to be the smoothest. You kind of get the best of both worlds at 45. And then when your print is done, you get this nice little jingle here that I did not expect to be able to wake me up out of a dead sleep. But yeah, you get excited when your print's done. And then you gotta wait about half an hour to an hour for it to cool down before you can peel it off the plate. And then you go ahead and do a showcase and pop it off the plate. And then I basically just had to roll it around in my hands to show you guys how jiggly and satisfying it is. So at this point, I basically thought I had something that was going to work out really well, but as you could see, I left the stand I made for the GoPro in the background of the video and put the camera on the table again. And so this 8-hour print basically shook the table to a point where it vibrated around and did a 360-degree pan of my house rather than watching the print. So for obvious reasons, I'm not going to be putting up the full 360 pan of my house. So there's that. So after some trial and error and a mountain of successful prints with failed time lapses, I finally got it right with this white dragon skeleton. And even though the GoPro was plugged in, it didn't die because it was charging while recording a high-def video. It again overheated. I think it cut off at about 28% of the way. But in the end, I was still able to make a decent kind of time-lapse video out of it. So it might not be great, but here's my first time-lapse with an actual showcase. So I guess until I can come up with something a little bit better than this, which I'll be basically doing for my next video, this will have to work for now, I guess. So yeah, there you go. It's not much. I hope it's not really too corny. I do have an idea of what I'm gonna do for better quality time lapses until I can get a shutter button. But if what I end up making works, then hopefully I won't even have to buy a shutter button. So check that out. That'll be the next video. I am going to be taking a break from the crypto side of things for a couple weeks. I won't be doing another white paper update probably till after the 9th. I have my dollar a day project review. The 6-month review for that is going to be on the 9th. And so this week I'll probably do the time lapse videos. Next week I'll probably be doing all of the math and kind of building up a video to release on the 9th for the dollar a day project. Outside of that, thanks for making it this far in the video. I'm going to end it here and basically get to work on setting up my little time lapse device.